Intrigues of the Ondo governorship election have come and gone, with Lucky Aiyedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, announced winner by INEC. And this is just as reactions continue to trail outcome of the poll. With the new government on board, Ondo people set agenda to hit the ground running, emphasizing youth employment and agricultural reinvigoration in the state. We have these and more on our lineup. I am Victor Azo, and this is Political Update. Welcome. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has declared Lucky Aiyedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress winner of the governorship election in Ondo State. The declaration was made after Aiyedatiwa secured a total number of 366,781 votes to defeat other contestants.
Returning officer for the governorship election in Ondo State and Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Lokoja, Professor Layemi Akinwumi, announced the final results after collating all the results from the 18 local government areas of the state. Professor Akinwumi said Lucky Aiyedatiwa polled 366,781 votes to defeat the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Agbola Ajayi, who scored 117,845 votes.
Aiyedatiwa Lucky, originally son of APC 366781. That Aiyedatiwa Lucky, originally son of APC, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
Representatives of political parties admit that the result represents the will of the people.
The people love him, and the people of this state is happy that he has returned as governor-elect. The party will come up with what to do at the appropriate time.
Reacting, the winner promised to run an all-inclusive government, while the PDP candidate was unavailable to react.
They have made a choice and given me a renewed mandate to continue as their governor beyond 2025.
With the final result, Lucky Aiyedatiwa won in all the 18 local government areas of the state.
And the atmosphere on the streets of Akure, the Ondo State capital, has been calm, with residents going about their activities following the declaration of the incumbent governor, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, as winner of the November 16 governorship election in the state.
The people of Ondo State have decided and spoken loud through their ballots by electing Lucky Aiyedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress, APC, to pilot the affairs of the state for the next 4 years. The calm and tranquility on the street of Akure was palpable as people went about their usual businesses. Some members of the public commended the electoral umpire for conducting a free and fair election, while they applauded security operatives for ensuring that there is no breakdown of law and order in the state.
It's a victory for democracy. We've been expecting it.
It was fair and very, very peaceful. So, I feel like this one is the best election so far in Ondo State.
The election has come and gone. The expectations of the people from the government are high, ranging from infrastructural development to the formulation of policies that will enhance growth in every sector of the economy.
I want you to continue for where you stop, because the one he did for me, the little one he did, I appreciate.
The new government should try to provide infrastructures for the people.
Security operatives were strategically positioned around the metropolis to prevent any unforeseen security breach.
Well, I guess it's a lucky day, because with the conclusion of the Ondo State governorship election and the emergence of Lucky Aiyedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress, APC, as the governor-elect, residents are expressing their expectations for the next 4 years. And while some emphasize the need for a robust focus on youth employment and revitalizing the agricultural sector, Others are calling for comprehensive transformation across all the sectors of the state.
With the governorship election concluded, expectations from the incoming government in Ondo State vary widely. Some residents who spoke with NTA News called for measures that would have direct impacts on the masses, particularly targeting the needs of youths and women.
I believe it's going to touch on infrastructure. It's going to bring in investors into the states.
Youth entirely that have graduated, they should find means, find a way that, so all this micro finance, so they should provide it for them.
Others emphasized the importance of prioritizing the agricultural sector to enhance food security and highlighted the need for soft loans and other incentives to boost the productivity of farmers.
It should bring in more hands for security. It should empower that area.
What we need him to do now, roads, water, and other set of things like school.
Residents are also hopeful for a more developed Ondo State in the next 4 years, aspiring to make the state a model of progress and the envy of others.
Well, I have now been joined by Amsfree Ajanaku of the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD. A pleasure to welcome you to Political Update.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, politics is over, and the expectations of the people of Ondo State is good governance. But before then, what's your reading and rating of the conduct of Saturday's election in Ondo State in terms of the performance of the Independent National Electoral Commission? Were you on ground, by the way?
Yes, I was in Akure. I just returned yesterday. And of course, across the board, there has been a pat on the back for INEC in terms of how INEC managed the process. When you look at the question of deployment and the question of logistics, which has always been the Achilles heel of INEC over the years. This time around, INEC seems to have gotten it right. Poll officials arrived well on time in several of the polling units. There were not so much of complaints, even from the hinterland. As a matter of fact, the Southern Senatorial District, which is actually the closest to the INEC headquarters, actually saw a little bit of late arrival. But not so late anyways, but on the whole, it's a thumbs up this time to INEC. Yes, it can be better, but it has shifted the needle a bit from the narrative of perpetual INEC late coming when it comes to getting poll officials to the polling units on time. This time around in Ondo State, I think all stakeholders, all observer groups, CDD, Yaga Africa, KDI, even the Women's Trust Fund, the Albino Foundation, all of the groups that observed the election, and I was in several of those situation rooms. There was unanimity, and there was
the election was good enough.
That INEC delivered well, well this time.
But in your opinion, does this strengthen the case for staggered elections, given that when you talk about deployments, whether security and other forms of deployment, you could have that luxury with staggered elections, single elections like this. But when it's general, because it's across the country, it becomes a bit more difficult. Does that strengthen the case for staggered elections?
Yes, so we have seen staggered elections also where INEC has also failed, in some of those cases where INEC had challenges in terms of logistics. And then we all were here in several programs where we lamented about the whole recurring problem of the logistic problem in our elections. So sometimes it's not about how staggered the election is. It can sometimes be about how much of planning, how much of strategic understanding of the issues that might affect logistic deployment comes into the process. And this time around, I think the resident electoral commissioner in Ondo State deserves a lot of commendation for the way she was really very proactive with her team, also with the national commissioners, troubleshooting, going around the state, and very importantly, the fact that INEC supported some local civil society organizations based in Ondo State. I was in several interactions with some civil society leaders who said INEC gave us the moral support, gave us the technical support to go out there and interact with the voters and try to convince them that this sacred responsibility of exercising their franchise, going to the poll on election day is an important one. But unfortunately, we still saw a very large-scale bazaar in the name of vote buying that happened in this election, and that is one of the downsides. That's one of the downsides of this Ondo election, which we believe that it should be addressed as we go forward.
All right, let me put you on hold here, Amsfria Janaku, because I was going to ask you about vote buying. Let me put you on hold, and so that we can go to some other stories. And Nigeria's former head of state, General Abdul Salam Abubakar, has urged the younger generation to imbibe conscious spirit of selfless service to motherland in order to realize the visions of the nation's founding fathers. Now, the former head of state gave the charge at the 5th Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe Annual Award Lecture, which was held here in Abuja.
Theme, Nigeria's Governance Model, Prospects and Perspectives. This year's lecture brought together eminent Nigerians from various walks of life in honor of one of the nation's founding fathers, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. Leveraging the unity and diversity of guests at the event, Nigeria's former head of state, General Salami Abubakar, canvasses yet again the message of nationalism and patriotism as exemplified in the life of Zik.
May I call on all of us to join hands in making peace and maintaining peace in the country as Zik did in his final days.
The keynote speaker and governor of Borno State, Babagana Umar Zulum, represented, went down memory lane to dissect Zik's struggles against colonialism and its impact on Nigeria's governance model.
Indeed, Dr. Azikiwe and others laid a solid foundation for democratic principles and national cohesion in their struggles against the British colonial rule. The vision was clear: nationalism, democracy, and national unity.
It is time to build a befitting national center for unity here in Abuja in the name of the late sage, Dr. Azikiwe, who fought and died for the unity of this country. The center, when completed, will serve as a unifying place of reference.
Today we have a united Nigeria. Today we have one corporate entity called Nigeria. So I believe that if all Nigerians can emulate the legacy of Nnamdi Azikiwe, Nigeria will be a better place.
Well, away from selfless service, peace is pivotal to the development and prosperity of any nation. With the efforts of the Tinubu administration towards building the culture of lasting peace, attracting commendation. Now, Samuel Eduviere Global Outreach Ministry, a non-governmental organization, is deepening the message for peaceful coexistence among citizens and even globally through human capacity building and other forms of advocacy, including rallies across the country.
Our objectives are to advocate for the rights and equitable treatment of all members of society and address issues of gender equality, discrimination, to motivate leaders with meritorious award for nation building and impactful leadership.
All right, let me get back now to Amsfria Janaku. I'm just wondering, what could be that recipe for peace and nation building in Nigeria? Would it be a single factor or a combination of several?
Thank you so much. I think it's a combination of several factors. And I go to this maxim that talks about, there cannot be peace in the absence of justice. So one of the key and one of the very fundamental elements we need in Nigeria to bring about peace is to ensure there is social justice. Social justice for everyone, irrespective of where they come from, irrespective of their creed, irrespective of their economic status, irrespective of their religious or sectarian affiliation. So if we have that fundamental element, I think it's critical and that would lead to peace. And that takes us even to the electoral process that we've been talking about. If the people know and have that confidence in the electoral process, then democracy itself will survive. And if democracy survives, if democracy becomes well planted in our country, then it will translate to stability and economic prosperity. So all of these issues are interlinked and intertwined, and we must, as a people, ensure that we do not just talk about peace in abstraction, we talk about peace in the context of social justice. And the frontline elder statesman, the late Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe that was referenced in the previous report, actually played his politics in the pursuit of some of these ideals. And I agree with all the other people who attended the memorial lecture who are saying Nigeria needs these ideals. But unfortunately, many Nigerian leaders pay lip service to the quest for social justice. And that is why our country experiences some of the upheavals it experiences.
I'm happy, Amsfree, that you have tied, the quest for peace, peaceful coexistence and nation building, you have tied it to the elections already. And, fresh from every election, there's hardly an election, apart from, if I remember clearly, the one which incidentally was at the national level where the then incumbent, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, just said, look, he's not going to court, and, congratulated the winner at the time, ensured free, easy transition, and moved on. Why is it that when we come out of elections, it's always one bickering or the other, one back and forth? Is it really a function of how our elections are conducted, or that we just have people who are not, who don't see this politics as a game?
Yes, so I think it raises a number of questions as to what is the content of the character of Nigeria's democratic process. First of all, I believe strongly that the whole winners take all a kind of model, what some people call the first past the post kind of system, is such that kind of completely removes, okay, see in the case of Ondo, for example, there are over 100,000 voters that voted for the opposition. It then means that in the next 4 years, they are not going to be part of any, they're not going to, in terms of decision making, be a part of the those who call the shots in decision making.
But the incumbent hasn't said so. He hasn't said they are not going to. I think he will be governor for all of Ondo State.
Yes, but of course, the kind of adversarial oppositional model we have in our democracy will mean that the man who has lost the election now is also thinking of the next 4 years, how he's also going out there to to also unseat the current ruling party. So probably we need to have a bigger conversation around how we address this first past the post system, such that it also has a way of sharing power with everybody that has participated in the process in a way that it gives everyone a sense of not wanting to pull down the system. That's not to justify the bickering, but that's just to say we could actually calm the nerves and also calm the frayed nerves that will always be there after an election is lost. Because make no mistake about it, when an election is lost, money has been lost, a lot has been lost. And so it's not always easy for those who have lost to move on. But we always say in the spirit of sportsmanship, you must be ready to move on, especially if the process is fair. And that is why we must also work towards making the process to be fair and transparent. And in this regard, we must address that anomaly, that a form of electoral criminality, which takes the very unfortunate shape of vote buying. We must address it in our body policy, and to address it, we cannot address it without talking about campaign financing. Because in this election in Ondo State, you could see votes being bought for 10,000. You could see people, some political parties buying votes for 5,000, some for 3,000. And so among the dominant political parties, none of them can say they did not induce voters one way or the other. So in the end, they have watered down the whole concept of democratic accountability, and they have actually made the electoral process to become commodified. So what we have right now is a commodification of the electoral process, which does not augur well for our democracy, our democratic process.
And at the end of the day, what impact do you think this vote buying could have on governance?
Now, we are already seeing it from the process itself. CDD, in the build-up to this election, predicted a sub-30% voter turnout. And voter turnout in the Ondo election was just around 24.8%. It shows that there has been a decline, because in the previous governorship election of 2020 in Ondo State, the voter turnout was around 32%. And in the presidential election, the voter turnout was around 31%. So it shows that less people are getting interested in the democratic process. It shows that there's a decline. And that also translates into governance, because if people are not participating in the process that brings about the leadership, how then would they be able to hold the leaders accountable? And it then would translate into leaders implementing policies without consulting the people. Because in this case, many of the political parties, even those who won, would know in their heart of hearts that it was not really a legitimate outcome. It was an induced outcome. And when you have an induced outcome, the leaders are unlikely to really consult properly with the people when they implement policies.
All right, and I hope that we'll get it right going forward. I'm Sri Ajanaku of the Center for Democracy and Development. It's a pleasure having to join me on this program.
Thank you. My privilege to be here.
All right, well, thank you very much for watching. This is Political Updates, and I am Victor Azo. We'll see you next time.